I realized as we launched our first service this morning that we're doing things a little backward. Some of you, what I find out is some of you don't read the email we send you. Some of you don't go on the website. Some of you don't listen in church. Some of you just are, I don't know where you are. But in case you didn't know, we are going through transition, and our last Sunday with Rick Charette as our music director was last Sunday. We now have a new interim music director. And I say interim because we chose to live together first before getting married. We'll see if we really like each other and we're compatible. But please, won't you join me in welcoming our new music director, Copo Magic. Thank you. Excited. In Ecclesiastes, it says, "To everything there is a season, and a time for every purpose under the sun. A time to be born, a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which has been planted. A time to tear down, and a time to build up. A time to weep, a time to laugh." And it goes on and on and on to say, unto everything there is a season. So we are now in the season of new creation. We've had the shortest day of the year has passed, and so each day gets a little longer. Thank you, God, for that. And we've celebrated a new year, and we're setting our intentions and doing our goal setting and saying silly things like, this year, I'm going to. Some of you, we could even check now. How are you doing? It's been 4 days. Right? But you see, this is an ancient tradition that says, as I was researching this a little bit, there's evidence in the Babylonians 4,000 years ago did some version of New Year, New Intention. So it's a wonderful time for us to be looking at what it is that we have be different. Now, there's nothing magical about the first of the year except that there's kind of a collective consciousness around that. Every moment is a new moment of creation when we really get it, right? We're always creating from this moment forward. But since we're in that mode, I felt like it would be good to look this month around the idea of intention and manifestation. Because we are a community that believes that there's a power of mind that we can use to create our lives the way we would like them to be. This should not be breaking news. I think I've talked about this before. Right? So what we are suggesting is that we are co-creative beings with a universal divine intelligence. The Buddha, many years ago, said to us, all that we are is the result of what we have thought. The mind is everything. What we think, we become. And in the Bhagavad Gita, which even precedes the Buddha, it says, the mind acts like an enemy for those who do not control it. So this science of mind thing, sometimes we talk about it as new thought, and others talk about it as new thought, ancient wisdom. Through the ages, there have been great teachers that have tried to help us understand that there is a universal intelligence that we are a part of. Give it a name. It doesn't care. Call it God, call it Allah, call it whatever you want to call it. I don't think it cares. It's like, whatever, that's nice. Right? There's a universal intelligence that is the source and the substance of all that is, and it operates according to divine law, that we live in a universe of law and order, and that each of us is a part of it. That in this presence we live and move and have our being. And so I always like to say what that implies then is we are not creators, because there's a universal intelligence that is the creator of all that is. However, we are co-creative beings. Now, here's a news flash. You always have been. This is not new. Not today. It's not going to start. You always have been. However, most of us created not knowing any better. We didn't know that, as the Buddha says, that which we think becomes our reality. So we just went about saying silly and stupid things. There's not enough, nobody loves me, blah, 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 whatever, right? realizing that we are participating with a universal intelligence that is bringing into our experience that which is a perfect reflection of our belief system. Now, you got to love the universe because it is brilliant in how it brings forth circumstances that support who we are. So as we're setting this time of new year, new intention, new goals, I thought it might be helpful to look at this a little bit. Because there's a huge difference between setting an intention and setting a goal. A number of years ago, Dr. Kathy Hearn came in and led us through a co-creation process. And in that co-creation process, we as a community redefined ourselves. We said we are setting as our purpose wholeness. That's the quality of the divine we want to embrace. And we set a vision for ourselves that says we are a vibrant spiritual community. And so sometimes people show up here and they go, wow, you're a vibrant spiritual community. Hi, Emily. Yes, it's my latest testimonial. So thank you for that. And then we set some intentions. We said, we know who we are and we live authentically. Our communications are effective and clear. We have abundant resources. We offer a variety of programs and services to serve a diversity of needs. And we are supported and prospered in the fulfillment of these intentions. Now, I keep this list on my desk at home, my desk here. So that's always in front of me because this is my guiding light. Who are we becoming as a spiritual community? It helps me to understand how I need to grow and how I need to foster that environment that allows those intentions to happen. But you see, intentions don't move us into having the experience. They simply set a place. You see, if we were going to set an intention to go to St. George, I'm kind of longing for warmer weather, I sense. That's why I keep using St. George or Phoenix or the Baja, I don't care. Anywhere's good. It is very different to set the intention to go there and then to go there. You see, at some point, now, I know some of you enlightened, really visioning spiritual people say, well, I'm just going to set this powerful intention. And in fact, I'm even going to affirm, not only am I going to St. George, but I am St. George. Because that is the power of my word. And at one level, it's true, you're all of it, but it still doesn't get you into the city of St. George until you set a goal, and you set a time, and you set a space, and you set a way of making that happen. So goals, then, are all about getting it into time and space. By when, by whom, etc., etc. So while we have great intentions for our spiritual center, we then every year are looking at what are the goals we're setting, what are we working to create, what are we working to manifest. So I know many of us are in this place right now, this time of year, where we're really mapping out 2015. What does it look like? What am I going to create this year? What am I going to manifest? How am I going to treat my body differently? How am I going to either get rid of the relationship I'm in or create a new one, or maybe both? I don't know. You know, what am I going to do? How is my life going to be different this year? And the reason so often people set a resolution and don't fulfill it is because there's no corresponding change in consciousness that makes the new reality welcome. Right? So we get stuck and we say, well, I think I'll just effort my way into being. I'll use the power of my will to make it happen. And what we learn is, like Einstein said, is that imagination is more powerful than will. Until we can imagine a new reality and embrace that new reality, then we just effort. And you know the thing about effort? It gets old. It's tiring. Right? So when we're moving into the understanding that where we want to start is at the level of mind, at the level of intention, then we create a new reality so that then the actions correspond with the new reality. We're sharing, I don't know if it was last couple weeks ago, about, that we are creatures of habit. We do what we do all the time, the same way. Right? We just get into the habit, and we do that. So, I realized that years ago, it's been almost 20 years ago, I think now, that I stopped smoking. And I think it's good. Thank you. That's nice, but I don't think that's a really clappable moment. And so in doing that, though, I noticed for a period of time that every once in a while I'd check my pocket where I always carried my cigarettes. Well after I'd stopped smoking. And that gradually stopped, but every once in a while, like a year later, I'd do that. So this morning, I had this moment. Tragic moment. Somewhere between my house and here, I had the realization I didn't have my cell phone with me. Oh my God. And so the moment of decision, do I just go to my job or do I go home and get it? Because, who knows who's trying to text me right now with some information that just could not wait, right? So I laughed because I said, back in the day when we all smoked, we'd go to a seminar or something, they'd take a break, everybody run outside and start smoking. You see all them do that. Now you go to a seminar, they take a break, everybody runs outside, and they've got to get in front of their screen and find out what they missed over the last 43 minutes, right? What earth-shaking event has just happened? So we do become creatures of habit. So in order to change the habit, we've got to create the new modality for that to happen. I was looking at a wonderful book, many of you are familiar with Wayne Dyer's The Power of Intention. And what I see with Wayne Dyer, he's gone through such an evolution in his own thinking as he's, like all of us, grown. But in this Power of Intention, he's come to embrace intention is not something that we do, but rather intention is a life force. So if you think about that, if you plant a seed, that's not setting the intention. The intention is the life force that takes that seed and brings it into full expression. So he says, in order to work with the power of intention, what we need to begin to do, there's 4 steps, and the first step is discipline. I know, you knew there was going to be a catch, right? It's discipline. It is the discipline to stop doing that which no longer serves you. When I was a smoker, I used to quit all the time. Every night when I went to bed, I'd quit. Most nights I'd make it the whole night before I started again in the morning, right? So it's not about that, but it's the discipline to stop doing what you've been doing, and more importantly, to start doing the thing that will bring you the results you want. And so there's a discipline that starts with that. Then he says the next step is wisdom. What new information, what new way of being, what new insights, awarenesses, imaginings do I need to have in order to become that person? And then he says the third step is love. And I love this, that the next step is to really open our hearts and to continue to love more expansively, to forgive ourselves for who we were, and to love ourselves and love the world around us, and to realize that the universe is always supporting us in the fullest and highest expression of who we are. Love, love, love. And lastly, he says to surrender. Surrender is so often the hardest part of it, isn't it? Because in one level, when we realize, hey, I'm co-creative and I'm going to take control of my mind and I'm going to follow, as Buddha said, and realize that I must control my thinking and I must begin to think differently. And I go on vigil to watch that. But then there's a point when we begin to realize that as I am setting that high intention, then I get to surrender to the life force trying to reveal itself through me and as me. And sometimes I have to let go of the how that's going to happen. In fact, most times I need to let go of the how that's going to happen. So as you know, we've gone through this transition of our music director, and I announced to a friend that Copo was going to be our new music director. She was like, oh my God, that's so fabulous. She said, how do you do this? this. And I said, well, it turns out I actually believe what I talk about all the time. I actually believe it, and I try and practice it on a regular basis. So how did I manifest Copo? Well, it turns out he existed before he became an idea in my mind, but nonetheless, I got to thinking about, okay, so somebody say, how are you going to replace Rick? And I said, I'm not. Rick has been done. Rick, right? We don't replace Rick. We let Rick follow his heart's journey, and now into the space that is created, we say, what's next? So for me, I said, I want a partner in ministry that is heart-centered. I want the partner in ministry who has a spiritual practice, that sees this as a ministry. I also would like a partner in ministry that has good knowledge of music and all the things that go with music. It's a helpful tool. A lot of you have good hearts and wonderful spiritual practice, but you don't get to be the music director, trust me. Right? And I wanted to, so that, it's just that intention of, okay, there's a right and perfect person. Now I don't know who it is. So sure enough, Copo comes and sings with us. Next day I get a Facebook message from Copo saying, hey, I hear you have an opening. I said, I do. He said, I'm interested. I said, I'm interested. Let's talk. Now what I didn't know, can I say this again? I knew Copo as the hippie harp guy. He showed up here a couple times. Love his music, but, it's like, okay, that's nice. You love Sanskrit, sing along. But he has this amazing, amazing resume. He's been a choir director and a music director and a music instructor. And it's like plays 18 instruments. It's like, oh. Because the universe, if we will trust and surrender to it, will provide in ways greater and grander than we could ever imagine. So, today, welcome Copo. Understand it'll be different. What do you mean it'll be different? It'll be different. It'll be wonderful. It'll be a new level of wonderful, right? Because that's how life works. So we can't continue to hold on to what was and say, but I want a different experience now. You must choose. So we surrender to that greater good. Now, here's how I've grown and evolved as a person in my years of ministry. Many of you have heard me say that I went through a major shift in consciousness when I made the declaration that I am willing to be fully and completely supported in my ministry. And so I'm always fully and completely supported in my ministry. It's amazing the wonderful people of you who show up to support this ministry. Before I knew that, I remember I had a musician. I don't know why I'm telling you this, but what the heck, it's all fun. So I had this musician who was really one of the most talented pianists I've ever known. Amazing. Amazing. You could hum a tune and he'd play it. And so he worked in musical surroundings, which sometimes includes in bars. And let's just say he was no stranger to the drink. So he'd make it to the center, and then he'd sometimes go while I was talking and catch a quick nap. And so sometimes, when we were ready for the twinkly music to go into the prayer, no musician. Sometimes when we're ready to sing the peace song, we'd be like, can somebody go wake up Buddy? So we'd go find Buddy, and he'd be like, okay. But he'd play. He was amazing. So that didn't feel like what I wanted to recreate. I've done that, didn't love it. So I'm willing to be fully and lovingly supported in this ministry. And I love that. You see, I don't have to know how things are going to happen. You don't have to know how things are going to happen. In fact, if you think you know, you're probably wrong. I'm just going to tell you right now. Because when we're really engaged with our larger vision and our larger possibility, it's going to require a whole nother set of information that you're not privy to just yet. But it will come. So then what we want to realize is that in our work, in our intention setting, as we're doing this, a friend of mine used to always close his email, a little tagline in his email that said, while I don't always get what I pray for, I always get where I'm praying from. Which is to say, now think about this, because some of us in this very room have prayed out of fear. We have been in a situation that we didn't like, and we said, okay, I've mucked this up pretty bad. I think I'll call on God. I know, I'll pray. What the heck? Because this can't be, and I've got to, right? So we don't get what we pray for. We get where we pray from. So when we can move into this, in fact, the whole art and act and spiritual science of prayer is to move into the state. The prayer is the activity to move us into the state of consciousness to recognize the divine nature of things. That we're not trying to get something outside of ourselves to come intervene in our lives, but rather to reveal that which already is. And what already is spirit existing as wholeness, as love, as joy, as harmony, as peace, as abundance, as all good things. And so we are simply working to establish our consciousness to be in alignment with the way things are. Who knew? When we don't learn to do that, we can pray from fear, but very often what we create is the thing we didn't want. You see, it's a wonderful thing to know that we're always creating at our current level of consciousness. There's no reason to make ourselves wrong or bad for it. It's just what is. I was reminded this morning of a lovely young lady that came into my asked to come see me, and so we sat and we talked, and she found herself in a very negative and abusive relationship. And so as we talked and she shared with me her story, she told me a little bit about her upbringing, and she grew up in a very negative and abusive family. And so her best thinking was, if I can find a way out of here, that will be my ticket. And so she did what some people do. She said, I'll marry my way out of this family. And at a very early age, she married a man, and she was no longer in that negative, abusive home. The reason she was in my office, because she was in a new negative and abusive home. Now, let's judge her, shall we? Okay, good. Now that we're through with that, let's look at that we all do that all the time, right? She didn't know any better. She thought that was her best thinking. I got to get out of here. What's the best way to get out of here? I'll get married. Just for your information, this person is not in the room, in case you're kind of looking around. And I'm not talking about you, just so we're clear. But I know some people do that, right? So we're creating out of our stuff. A friend of mine once said to me in the context of ministry, he said, you know, we're always creating from our divine magnificence or from our unhealed past. He was speaking about in reference to ministry, but I've realized that's kind of our life, isn't it? We're either showing up as the magnificent being that we are, or we're attracting to into our life those things that remind us of the places of being unhealed. Now, we can make it about them, but the real power and the real work is to recognize no blame, no shame, no guilt, just to say, if it's happening in my life in some way, I must be participating in it. So what is mine to heal? What is mine to learn? What is mine to grow from? So that I can create the new reality, to create what I want and set a new intention so that my life looks the way I want it to look. Am I getting too close to home, or should I keep going? Keep going. So it's okay. Understand, we're all in a process. We're all in a journey. That's why I want us to understand the most powerful thing we can realize is that we are co-creative beings, that we have always done the best we could given our current level of awareness. So everything else that is happening is helping us to expand our awareness. And so wisdom says to us, don't keep doing what doesn't work. Stop it. Not even just one more time just to see if it doesn't work, right? If it doesn't work, stop doing it. And begin embracing a new vision of possibility and setting a new intention of who you want to become. So as we are moving into this time of creation, of powerful being, it is important not only to ask ourselves, what do I want to accomplish this year? But really the more important question is, who do I want to become in this new year? And what would that person look like? And then that person will accomplish the goals that you've set. Your little you is doing you right now. And if you want a bigger life, we've got to expand our possibility for more expansive thinking. The biggest block that I see we all have is we continue to believe we're not enough. Good enough, smart enough, tall enough, short enough, fat enough, I don't know, whatever. Just fill in your blank. And by that belief, that continuing to believe that we are not enough, or that we don't deserve, or that we're not worthy, we continue to hold the barrier to our greater good. Until you can realize within your own being that you deserve to be fully and completely supported in your life, in every possibility, then you're going to get a buddy and not a copo. Right? Right? You have to go find them sleeping on the couch. Thank you for not falling asleep today. By the way, I'm grateful for that. Right? But once we realize that we're just in partnership with the universe, that the universe delights in our self-expression in us and through us and as us, then we are creating that space, and then we're looking at what no longer serves us and being willing to release that and embracing this new vision of possibility for our lives, for who we are, and for what is possible on the planet. I keep saying that we'll stop having war when we stop believing in war. Collectively. Right? So I don't know where you are on this journey. I think it's an exciting time. I certainly know I'm filled with joy and anticipation and excitement for my own life, for the life of this center, for what people are sharing with me of what's happening in their lives. Our greater good is yet to be. And so how we bring that into being is first with that clarity of intention. Who will I become? What will that look like? What will that feel like? How will I know when I'm there? And when we move every day in our spiritual practice to do that and to continue to release those limiting beliefs, those ideas that no longer serve us, then the universe simply is responding by doing what the universe does, which is to bring itself forward into manifestation according to the idea that has been given. Buddha says to us, all that we are is a result of what we have thought. The mind is everything. What we think, we become. Let us pray. As we open our hearts and our minds in this very moment to that universal loving intelligence, that divine wisdom, that life that is the life of all. And we remember in this moment that even as we are breathing, there is something that is breathing itself through us. There is something beating our heart. There is something coursing through our veins that is one with a universal intelligence. We do not need to make any of that happen. So we're simply aware of this universal divine intelligence which causes all things to be, which causes the planets to be in perfect balance and motion, which causes the rains to fall, the flowers to grow, and life to continue to make itself known. This is the life that I know. This is my life. And this is the life of each of us gathered here. So as I speak this word of truth, it becomes very easy to know for each of us that we are divine beings, given an amazing inheritance of our oneness with the divine. So we open our hearts in this moment to experience absolute, unconditional love. We open our minds to experience divine wisdom. We open the very portal of our soul to remember the truth of who we are. And so we announce and proclaim the truth, that wholeness reveals itself as health, as well-being, as vitality. We announce and proclaim that the only reality is one of love. And so we allow love to heal and transform our lives. We joyously and fully forgive ourselves and each other. We release that which no longer serves us. I am reminded in this moment the only reality is one of abundance. For we live and move and have our being in the source that has created all. So we make welcome our greater good. We joyously give, we generously receive of this infinite bounty. And it is good. We are blessed. Inviting you now, if there is a burden on your heart this morning, that this is the moment to lay it down, to set it aside, to embrace a new reality and a new possibility, to recognize we are blessed beyond measure. And so as we give thanks for the many blessings in our lives, it is only natural to extend a blessing to others. We bless this spiritual community, knowing that it is a divine idea unfolding in joy and in love and in abundant ways. We extend that blessing to our brothers and sisters across the planet, to the planet itself. We're seeing and sensing and knowing and feeling a planet at peace, a world that works for all, a greater reality making itself known. And as always, we bless all priests, rabbis, ministers, teachers of every faith. For we know there are many pathways to the divine, and so we honor and celebrate them all. In joy and gratitude, then, I'm simply releasing this word into that divine law which knows how to bring forth the highest good for all concerned. In joy and profound gratitude, I simply give thanks that this is so. As together we say, and so it is.